there. Welcome everyone to this talk show breakout session where we talk about are you covered? And especially for those international guests who are not aware of the pun in that title, we will hear from a client case from Achmea, and Achmea is one of the largest Dutch financial services firms and closely involved in both life, health and financial insurances besides financial services and asset management. So that's the pun in the title, and we'll talk about how they work together to deliver value. Working together was one of the key assets that Rick and Pepijn just showed in coming to value with IT and coming to value with quality engineering. And the question is, how did they do it and what can we learn from that? So that's after their introduction what we will discuss together with Steven Goudaert. You're an engagement manager at Society for over 18 years. And also joined here is Neşat Efendioğlu. I've been practicing that all day. You are the product owner of the Tricentis implementation methodology, amongst other functions, and he likes to be referred to as the journey guy. And what that means, we will learn soon from Joost van Lieshout and John Bertens, who will kick off. The last 2 years, you've been working on implementing an automatic testing environment by means of the non-code automation tool Tricentis, or Tosca of Tricentis, I should say. And the unique story in this case is that you guys decided not only to buy the tool, but actually listen to the journey guy and to Steven's advice and really partner up and adopt the Tricentis way of working. So by means of introduction, a big round of applause for Joost and John to lead us into the topic.
Thank you. So, to give you a really short summary of the context where we are in, because we only have 35 minutes and we do want to spend some time on the table. So before we start, I want to say, if you have questions afterwards, we'll be there drinking coffee. You can always ask us questions. You can ask Neşat at the Tricentis booth. So please, we're not able to share everything we learned in the past 2 years. It's way too much to do in half an hour. But yeah, we work for Achmea, which is the most fun insurance company within the Netherlands, financial services. And we have some fans in the room. As Achmea, we like to think of ourselves as, well, one of the cornerstones of society. Sustainable living together is our motto. And well, if you're looking for a new job, you can always come work for Achmea. But why are we here? Why did we discuss transforming our quality insurance some years ago? Well, I think one of the key things that happened was our transition to working agile. We've been working in projects, in rational unified projects, in all kinds of ways together. And test automation was always something that we thought, well, would be helpful, would be interesting, something we need, but never came to its full potential. And then somewhere 2018, 2019, as Achmea, we decided, well, we should start working more agile. We already had a lot of teams working agile, but we should do it as a company. And we adopted the Scaled Agile framework. And from then on, well, for us, something really accelerated because we were starting to deliver software more iteratively, incrementally, smaller batches, which meant a lot of repetitive testing. And yeah, we had a lot of testers and some automation, some people that did it by hand that really didn't really scale. We couldn't meet our time to market as we would like. So we started looking for a new solution. And keys to that solution were that it had to be no code or low code, because our environments are a lot of configuration. We have some low code platforms, and we still have some high code platforms. But we also learned from high code test automation that we were using that it's really, you can only work on it if you're a specialist. So we had some dedicated IT specialists within the organization doing our test automation. And well, our discussion was always, do we get the value out of it that we need? If you assign people to do test automation, they will do test automation. But will they only do the things that bring value, or will they just work on test automation? So yeah, we identified all the issues with the old tooling, with the landscape, and we said, well, we need something new. And well, it's about value here, so we started thinking, how are we going to sell this to our senior management? And of course, we had a lot of qualitative reasons: time to market, less defects, faster feedback. But it was difficult to put a number on that. And in discussions with the suppliers and in the whole RFI, RFP process that we had, they said, well, yeah, but in the end, it's also about efficiency. If you cover more risk with less testing, then it's efficiency. Then in the end, you can do, you can cover your risks with less people. And that also allowed us to say, well, okay, but we think we can do with 30% less test capacity. And don't be afraid, we're a really social company. We're not going to fire anyone once this is done. We need all the testers we can have, and we need all the people that we have within IT, because there's, well, still a lot of things to do, to work on, like, for example, learning about Gen AI. When we came up with the 30%, we were laughed at by our supplier. They said, well, that's not really ambitious. Normally, our clients say 40%. When we brought it to our management, they said, well, that's interesting, because if you can really deliver 30%, then it's an easy, then it's an easy business case, and let's go ahead. And then during that RFP process, talking to Neşat, because one of the things we did in our RFP process is not only asking our suppliers, hey, can you please provide us with a solution, tell us why your tool is the greatest tool that ever existed, and why we should buy your tool. We also asked them, please tell us, please help us, how should we implement this? If we are going to implement this tool, we're only going to do it once. And if you're a successful company, you probably do this like 100 or maybe more times a year. So, tell us how should we do it? Don't let us make all the mistakes. And in that discussion, we learned something, a fool with a tool is still a fool. You know all the sayings that exist. It's really not about the tool. It's about testing, it's about coverage, and it's about a way of working which is supported by a tool. And when that dime dropped, that was for us a start in our journey together with Tricentis in implementing enterprise continuous testing, because we also do it together with SAP, and then Tosca gets a new name. We really embraced the continuous testing part of it and started building from there within Achmea.
So one of the first steps we did together was with Neşat from Tricentis was, okay, what's the plan going to be? And because of course when you buy a tool and it's all about like license or installing the tool, yeah, of course that's part of it, but that's a small part of it. It's also about, okay, maybe you have to adopt new roles in your organization, or think about how our responsibilities divided into your organization. To give you an example, they said it would be a good idea when people are testing with Tosca to have like a test architect who can help them in making their journey into Tosca, but also when they encounter problems, to come to the architect and to be able to get help to get things solved. So it might be a good idea, for instance, to have in every division a test architect. So who's going to be? So that was our first, okay, so probably we might need some new rules or roles, and who's going to be. But also, for instance, how do you want to make the organization in? Do we go in a full bank scenario, a big scenario everybody starts? Do we start with one division? How do we build up to enroll it through the whole organization? So it brought there were quite some questions to be answered, and not just by, okay, how does the tool work, but more or less on organization, on roles, on how is Tricentis going to help us in the journey. And Neşat, that's why we called him the journeyman, helped us a great deal in writing this down into the plan on which steps are we going to take. Another part, for instance, was we had like after every 1 or 2 months, I believe it was, we had a board, And in the board, we just talked about progress where we are right now, and do we change something about the plan we had? We had everything written down in the playbook. It's right, the governance rule set, like the Bible, on how we went along. And we said, hey, if we want to deviate anything from the standard practices of Tricentis, we will discuss within each other, and we only deviate from the rule set if we all agree. And even Tricentis was also there, because we said, hey, we partner up, so it's not just been maybe the original supply-demander relationships, like we are in this together. So do we think we need to adjust something? And it's good to know that along the way when we did this, we never had to change our route or our way of working. It was more or less just give everybody an update on where we are and where we are in the process. Neşat can tell you everything about the plan, about the roles, about how we went along with it. But for us, it was a big change to what we normally do within Achmea, where it was more or less, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, okay, here you have the license, have fun, find out. And we were like, no, we're not going to find out ourselves. We want to maximize the potential of the solution, so help us do that. And Neşat wrote it down in the whole plan. Goes far too beyond this presentation now to go in all depth, but it really helped us to keep focus on what are we doing and why are we taking these steps. So just to give you a real short insight, roughly we did 3 phases. I think it might sound a little bit logical if you already know Agile to do it like small, start small and grow from there. So of course we started within a pilot where we picked just one team, gave them some a license, of course, trained them, did a whole enablement, which we also described in the plan with Neşat on how does the training enablement look like, and just try it out. Can we get it installed? Can we automate the things we want to automate? It was pretty straightforward. But what really, and of course, after every phase, we were like, okay, are we still on track? Do we meet like on the exit criteria? Do we feel we're on the right track to go? And one thing in the pilot team, 2 things that really was impressive for me was like, I'm the one that always comes to the pilot team and asks, I only have one question, do you like it? Do you like working with a new tool? Because if I'm a test manager, if I say, hey, tomorrow we start all in a new tool and everybody thinks, okay, great ideas, but not for me, then it's never going to work. So whenever I asked the question in the pilot team, I always saw smiling faces and people were happy to use it and to get along with it. And even we had one a person who wanted to automate some testing with APIs, and she did the enablement. We did not do the API part in the enablement session, but there was a separate training module on the Tricentis side. She said, well, let's take a look at the training. So she went to the training, and the next day, in 4 hours, she had some automated test case in APIs testing with a tool she didn't know before. So we were like, okay, we think we are on the right track so far. Of course, not everything goes that easy, but it went really, really smooth. Then we went to the Lighthouse. In the Lighthouse, it was all about governance. It was like, okay, we are one team, it works, we can automate, we don't question automation, that's going to work. But the question is, if we are going to share artifacts, reuse artifacts between the different divisions, is that possible? We have some rules and regulations thought about up front on how that should work, but does it work? That's what we did in Lighthouse. We did some more divisions in there, but still controlled. I believe like 3, we started with 3, I guess, 3 or 4 release trains. Also trained them, let's get them worked and find out, hey, if everybody has an architect, we have our test architect meeting every week. Does that function? Do we get the right questions? Can we get information back to the people? Does it work? Do we all stick to the same practices and conventions? But it was a starting point to find out if our governance structure was right. What I said, in that phase, we had the board meetings after every like 1 or 2 months. We didn't have to change it there. So that again was at the end of the Lighthouse a real point for us that we're still on the right track.
Yeah, Joost, I think really important part there, because of course we had management buy-in of the whole board of IT directors when we started, but we really used the Lighthouse to pick out teams in different divisions, making sure that they could be and would be successful, to also build a foundation under that support, that we not only had the support of our senior management on paper, but that they really would buy into to the solution. And,
yeah, definitely.
And they did.
Yeah, definitely. They really had to sign in and get the time available for people to join. Definitely true. And after the lighthouse, we went on the scale phase, and that was more or less, okay, we've seen it work, we've seen it, the governance structure worked across different divisions, let's roll out to the rest of the organization. So every division on itself has to file in or send in a business case. How was 30% on efficiency? It could be for another division. You heard the story from Rick earlier, like a value can be different from different perspectives. So different divisions might have different expectations and different goals what they want to reach with this implementation. So if you look at where are we now, and it goes a little bit round like that, I think there never will be like a fixed endpoint. It will be more or less like an orbit, because once you have all your test automation regression testing in place, that might be considered like a sort of an endpoint, but from there on you still have your new people coming in, need to be trained, changes are made to regression testing, but of course there are also all kinds of development to the product, to Tosca for instance. Today is all about AI, right? If you look at Tosca, to the Copilot which is in Tosca, Vision AI which is related to AI of course, it's all in there. How do you use that one in your own organization? And we are like, I think the majority of people which I saw learned this morning here in this setting already was that a lot of people still experimenting, trying out. I think we're in the same phase there, and the Gen AI. Yeah. We stole this a little bit. I guess it was from the Trump election where he said, or no, it was the Dutch television who said America first and Holland second, something like that. We translated into okay, but if it's not first the tool, but if it's value related, what you want to get out of it, we have to start by what do we want to test and why. So that's why we said we made it think first, automate second. This is not new. Everybody knows it. Everybody read the T-map and the T-map next and whatsoever. But this again triggered us to look to our automation, because we had some automation in our tool before, and it went a little bit out of hand, like a lot of test cases. But what we already heard also this morning, when you ask the questions like, okay, but what's in it? What is the value for you? Or what is in the testing test suite? Or what do you test or what do you not test? It's always like, we don't know. I had a question before when we translated this to Tosca. We had another tool, and I asked a product owner of one of the tools, of the teams that use the other tool, we are going to build up our new regression test in Tosca. Do you know what is in your current regression test, or what do you want us to take with you to Tosca? He said, I don't know anything what's in there. Ask the tester. So that means for me, he's literally saying to me, for me it doesn't have any value. I don't know, I don't care. And that's why this helps, because it also gives you, like in business language, like what are the risks, what are we testing, and what test cases coverage what. And it should be in business terms. We wrote it down in our playbook, in our Bible, it has to be in business terms. That everybody from outside, you can read it, you can understand what it is. Because if you are the tester in your team and you're the only one that knows what is automated, well, stories enough today, then it has no value for a lot of people. So then why are you doing it? Make it transparent. That's why this helps.
Yeah.
So next step, going with Nearshore. I already told you the endpoint of the rocket and the flying in the orbit, right, is more or less like a situation where we have all our regression tests, lean and mean. So test only the things that really matters. It's not like we're never going to ask our teams, okay, automate as much as possible, or you have to have at least that much test cases. We want it lean and mean. Make sure, because even test execution takes time. The maintenance of test cases costs time. So make it as less as possible, but of course enough to create value for you. So make it lean and mean. And that means that we want to speed up the automation for the teams that they have their whole regression test into Tosca. So, and that's where Nearshore with Stefan, we had a lot of talks, it helps. Because we said to our team, after the first enablements, after the training, okay, by 1st January of next year, 2025, so a few months, we want every team to do, every team that works with Tosca has their regression test, a lean and mean regression test in Tosca. Can you do it yourself, or do you need help? That was the question. And a few teams said, hey, we can do it, we are almost there. I mean, we are that fast, don't bother us, let's go. Excellent. If you cannot make it before that, because of time, because of whatever, we can arrange and organize some help. And that's where we had the contact with Stephen to get some extra capacity in the form of Nearshore, and use Nearshore to build some automated packages for us. And sometimes they do also the analysis, sometimes it's only the real coding and building the package, not the coding, the building the packages. And it helps us to speed up the transition into Tosca.
Yeah, and to add to that, because it's also growing nearshore, having one common language, having one tool in place, that really helps and speeds up communication. And that brings me back to value, because, well, this stream is also about value. And yeah, that's where we see that Tosca really shines in bringing value on several qualitative parts. I mean, we reduced the amount of tools we have within Achmea from a lot to a couple. We still want to reduce it further, but that means that our community of people using Tosca is way larger than we did with all the separate tools. It's easier to maintain because we only have we have less platforms. And on the top right side, by having this universal language in place, what we encompassed in our playbook, it also allows us to do the nearshore, to have more and better discussions about testing and unify that. We've been really growing the community, growing knowledge, because there's over 100 people trained in Tosca already, I think close to 150. And we have 60 to 70 concurrent users per day. Well, that's like 10 times the amount of what we had in the past with tooling, when we had different tools with 5, 6 people. And in the end, we have happy people. Then what about the 30%? Well, we're working hard on that, and that's what Joost explained. We're really using Nearshore to help us push towards the 30%, become more efficient, build only test cases we need, build them fast so that the teams can rely on our tooling and start working on the actual problems and start learning things like Gen AI, so we can speed up even further. And I think that's it. That's it.
Yeah, have a seat. Have a seat, have a seat, have a seat. Before we dive into a conversation trying to extract some of the learnings, John, Joost, some quick big numbers. The whole organization of Achmea, how many people work there? 13,500 employees.
17,000 FTE or something.
Exactly. How many of those are involved in the IT or ICT department?
We have 3,000 people in IT.
And how many of those are involved in quality engineering, testing, and those domains?
Around 300, 350.
I think dedicated roles with like test specialists, test managers, really test roles, primarily is like 350 something.
350, just to have an understanding of scale of where we're talking about. And then there's basically two learnings in the stories. On the one hand, it's the way the tool was embraced and how you did that and how you transformed it. On the other hand, in the end also you tell us about the nearshoring. Steven, 18 years as an engagement manager at Société. You've been working on this project specifically in that nearshoring part, but you've seen many other clients. If you had to pick and choose and underline a key learning that this audience can take away from this case study, which one would it be for you?
Well, what I really liked here, Gerrit, is the fact that Achmea involved us early. Not particularly with hiring the people, and you saw that Nearshore came in at the lighthouse and in the skill phase. But as an engagement manager, they involved me and the organization and a few of our experts in also looking at the plans that they're drafting together with Tricentis, building their playbook and building their way of work. And it was a really warm transition into the phase that we could bring value towards Achmea.
So you were there with a small team early. How early? Was there already in the procurement phase, or when did you step in?
I think a little bit after the procurement phase. So Tricentis was already the selected partner of choice for the platform, but we were involved in learning the plans, thinking along, trying to give some advice from our perspective as well, and that really helped. So
Exactly.
and I've seen
Why did that help later on? What were you able to do in that early phase that saved a lot later on?
Well, I see too many instances where we get into a situation that we perhaps do not fully agree. Our vision doesn't fully agree with the choices that the client made. And what we could do with the information up front is also train and prepare our people from our nearshore locations. Is listen up. This is what's coming up. We were training the people, we were learning them the implementation of Tricentis and the way of work of Achmea, and that gave us a good head start.
So the learning is, if you want to scale big and you have these type of dimensions and skills like your organization, get those partners for the later phase involved early. Neşat, same question to you, of course. Tricentis is all over the world. Tosca is being implemented, all kind of types of organizations and clients. What makes this one specific?
And the most specific one is that Jon and Joost had already a vision. Yeah, I mean, mostly my customers, I am working in the SAP domain, and most of them doesn't have the vision about the QA. They think just the testing is something that you need to do, is a check before the go live, right? They don't think that actually the QA is for the risk mitigation. They don't have this vision, and this was a difference that they had already the vision, and they were thinking that the QA is the most important.
You're saying QA, you mean quality engineering? So from the root on. You say that's new. We have a full day for the 8th time in a year where we talk with people who do quality engineering. So I want to challenge you a little bit on that.
This is a good question. I mean, I need to bring you guys my customers, and let's see that if they have the same vision, maybe I need to bring all my customers here, and they have the vision about the QA, and they understand actually what is the quality engineering and why the quality engineering is very important for their risk mitigation and also for the successful implementation of their important changes. I mean, one example, you know, the guys S/4HANA transformation projects, right? They focus on the implementation of those projects, and rightfully so, but they need also the help for their business continuity, right? They need to just protect their business. If they present them the quality assurance as a risk mitigation tool, and to set up the correct vision for that, and helping them to actually create the roadmap to establishing the unified way of working, so that everybody is thinking about the QA as a risk mitigation tool. They are thinking about the risk coverage instead of the implementing and the testing everything as much as possible and trying to automate everything. And they start to think about the risk coverage. Okay, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to think, first of all, what risk I'm going to cover. Is it important? I am actually focusing a crucial business process. Am I covering a risk in the crucial business process? And what is the return of investment here? Exactly. And then they're going to make the decision about that. This is talking, this is easy to say, but you need to set up this mindset in the organization, right? And you need to bring the unified way of working in the organization. And it starts for sure with having the capable tool, capable technology, but it is mostly about the process, unified way of working, and the most importantly, the people. And for that, you need a clear vision and a clear roadmap. And this is what we have done in the Achmea. It was successful because our champions had a correct mindset and the vision already. And we are trying to replicate that in the other domains with the small and the large customers, actually.
Exactly, because Jon and Joost, that was one thing, while listening to you, sharing this huge success story, and of course we applaud you for it, but you make it sound so easy. Well, you know, stick to the methodology, don't divert, only if we all agree. But wait a second, you have a huge organization, people are used to stuff, all the tooling. What was it? Was it luck? Was it a unique opportunity? Or what was it that allowed you to actually stick so close to the plan and actually manage the whole soft side of this journey? Because that the tool is fine and the methodology fits, we all get it. But how were you able to do it?
I think it was all those things together. I think we had the luck that we had an implementation of a security testing tool before this, where they just gave us the tool and said, well, here, we installed the tool, go ahead.
So prior bad experiences were helping.
Yeah.
And it took us like 1.5 years to get it implemented because some of the use cases were not implemented already.
Okay.
But also, we don't have to tell anyone within Achmea about risks because, well, that's
it's an insurance company.
Yeah, it works for business.
Yeah.
And but they do trigger on covering those risks with minimal effort.
So the approach in this project was also very aligned to the core business of your organization. So that's kind of a contextual luck or given that really helped.
And I think what also made it successful is that Achmea has a lot of different divisions. And well, know your friends, well, we don't really have enemies with Achmea, but not everyone.
Lesser friends.
So we, from day one, we from one of the bigger IT divisions, or bigger divisions, at least from IT perspective. We aligned with the health department, and that covers like 60–70% of
and it sounds like that whole selecting the right teams in the lighthouse phase was crucial, making sure how the thing flowed to the organization. Time flies, so I want to link this topic also to the theme of today, navigating the era of generative AI. I haven't heard it in your presentation. Steven, where's the magic of Gen AI in this project?
Well, what we're trying to do currently at Achmea is, of course, they're utilizing the built-in features of AI of Tricentis. But we're also doing.
Maybe I should ask Neşat. Neşat, can you give me, and then I come back to you. Can you give me one example? How is the Gen AI supporting in the tool?
For example, we have this self-healing feature in the
self-healing feature.
Exactly, and this AI can recognize actually what needs to be actually corrected automatically, and even give you
in the application or in the test automation.
In the application, in the Tosca itself, right?
Oh wow!
Yeah. And we can offer this feature, and we have the Vision AI also, right? And those are the features that you have in the technology already. The thing is, if you have the process and the people who can utilize those features in the correct time.
Exactly, and that's also Steven's work. So, okay, so there's then AI in the tool, and then what?
Well, the theme also of this presentation is do not automate everything. And what we're currently doing is at Achmea we're doing a pilot with the amplifier tool, where the first session of today in this room was all about.
And was in Dutch, so probably they haven't.
I don't know. So I see some familiar faces in the audience. What we're trying to do there is speed up the process of creating the test coverage using Gen AI based on the requirements and transcripts from Achmea, and using that as an input to build smart and lean and efficient test automation in Tosca. So
where do I place that in the workflow? So amplifier helps us identify the use cases or the test cases which we then automate with Tosca?
Yes.
Okay, so
exactly that.
Yeah, the another feature is the live compare or the C-lights, right? And it can identify already
what? That was the
live compare.
Yeah.
Another tool, we have established the risk-based testing. Now we can introduce the new AI features from the live compare or from the C-lights. It can already identify the risk, and it can help you actually to optimize already in the design phase your test portfolio. So you can focus the real risk, and then you can make the correct decisions about that in your risk-based testing.
Which is then an input for that risk analysis tool and prioritization tool.
Exactly.
Joost, John, from your client perspective here in the room, Gen AI, where do you see the big opportunities in the next few months for you?
I think definitely in the product of Tosca itself. It has also a co-pilot. You see Tosca as part of the suite where AI is all over the place. So I think especially when you look into the future, where you see more and more low and no code development tools, also test tooling will go more and more into that direction as well. So I think if you do test automation at this moment with high code tooling, be prepared somewhere in time to make a switch to a low-code solution, whatever that is, because it's gonna be there.
Is there anywhere a risk? Are you covered in the switch to the low-code tooling? In a sense that who in the end still knows what's going on under the hood, or is that not necessary? Have you completely outsourced that quality to your vendor?
Yes, I don't. Yeah. I don't think it's necessary. We trust our vendors, we trust our partners, and I'm happy that we're not responsible for doing all that work for ourselves anymore.
It depends also
then it's not scalable.
You see that as an opportunity, actually. Yeah.
It depends also a little bit where you use the AI for. I mean, if it's just tooling that makes your object recognition more stable and make your automation more stable, then it's not that much of a discussion. If it's like, okay, what are we going to test? of course, then it's going to be a different story.
And we still use our specialists to work with the tool, work with the amplifier, or with a co-pilot type of tool. We're not letting the AI run by itself. It's always a guided implementation of AI by our test specialists, in this case from our nearshore location, making sure that what we deliver actually also makes sense and is not something that AI has dreamt up with all different sources.
It's that little box in Rick Marcelis's decision tree. Are you able to identify and verify that the outcome is still correct? And you say you still need those specialists
We still need those
in place.
specialists, of course, yeah.
We won't be fully automated soon. Maybe next QX Day we'll talk about that.
And take into account, we are a regulated company, so also we're doing a lot of research on how we can use AI in our processes, but we also need to tick the compliancy boxes. Because,
Exactly.
Yeah.
As I said, time is flying, but I have good news, because we've done another comic image. We talked about value. We learned from Achmea, Neşat, your vision, Antosca, and Steven, how the nearshoring helped. I invite you, as they did themselves, look them up. They are around. We have a bit of a bigger break, because the next inspiration injection will be again in Dutch, unfortunately, in the quality experience, and it is scheduled for 15 minutes past 15, so 3:15. So that gives us more than half an hour to actually take a break, reflect on what you've just learned, discuss with each other how you can take the next steps this morning, but not before we give a big round of applause to our speakers from Achmea, Tricentis and